Hello, and welcome to the ADRA Insider podcast, where we share insights into our work and the people behind the work that we do. I'm really excited to introduce to you today my guest. His name is Sopheap Sreng. You hail from Cambodia, and you are ADRA Canada's Gender Equality Manager. Welcome. So happy to have you here in the studio.
Well, thank you, Heather, for welcoming me. What a lovely plan.
So you are the Gender Equality Manager. And I know I have questions about what that means. So I'm sure that our listeners and viewers do as well. But before we jump into that, I'd like to hear a little bit about you. You know, I've seen your name on emails. And then when I go to the office and walk around, people say, "Oh, Heather, you need to talk to Soapeep. Soapeep has a story."
Okay.
And so now I'm so excited to finally hear your story. So please share with us about your background and how you came to be with ADRA.
Sure. Thank you, Heather. Thank you for the warm welcoming. So I am a proud and happy father of two sons. Lovely. I've been married to my wife for the last 15 years. I cannot ask for anything else more than this lovely family. You know, I grew up in the northeast of Cambodia, a town with a population of about 100,000 people. And with some great blessings, I was able to move from that town to the capital city of Cambodia, Phnom Penh, took my bachelor, and then went back home for some short breaks with community development work, and then continued to do my master in Thailand. And here I am with ADRA Canada Gender Equality Manager. What an awesome opportunity.
So you said with many blessings, you are able to achieve these things. Can you tell us about those many blessings? What exactly happened?
When I was growing up at a very young age, I was kicked off from home. And the only place I would sleep was somewhere on the street. And every night I would go to a shop and pick up leftover food from the table, and that would fill the stomach. And one day with my friend, we were looking for some labor job to dig canal. And then while we were walking on that street, I saw this handwritten sign in one of these Cambodian households. It says English class. And I didn't know what to do. My friend and I, we stopped in, and it was such an experience that the teachers there welcomed us and brought us into the church. And with $1 that my friend gave me to pay for the English class, and with the introductions to Jesus and how, you know, he would be willing to forgive us and give us what we pray for, I did exactly what I was told, and I made my progress every time. I began to sit down with my friend, with my teachers, study the Word of God, and slowly began to realize that this is the only way I could achieve greater blessing. And I've been so blessed with all of those opportunities. But before knowing the church, I was a very early age. I remember it was in 1993 when the United Nations came over to Cambodia, and that was the time I was kicked off from home. And I began my life on the streets until I came back home. So with so many years, 1993 all the way to 2000, I was just living on myself. Yeah. I think the English class that was provided by the church, this $1, the $1 that our friends and colleagues, whether Canada or in other countries, giving to our developing countries, you know, that $1 can go so far. And if you ever wonder where the donations would go, that's how it would go. And of course, many programs that ADRA Canada is doing, actually helping many boys and girls just like me to be able to transform from a boy of nothing to somebody now working internationally. And this is something, of course, can only be done with the power of God. And it was the blessing I received when the first day I stepped into the church, and the day I began to follow the Bible. I was told, confess our sin and begin your prayer. And I did exactly just that. And it helped me every time and everywhere I go. And this is how I find so reaching experience, just to be able to work internationally, but to be able to achieve so great with the power of love in Jesus Christ.
That's wonderful. Yeah. How did you manage to survive as a child on the street?
Every day me and my other friends, we would carry this bag, this plastic bag, and then on our back we would walk from one place to one place, one shop to one shop. And what we do regularly is to pick up cans and bottles from the streets, put on your bag, right? You continue walking wherever at night, you sleep there. Luckily, if the time is night, you can find some things to eat from the leftover food or from the trash. That's all you could do. And then you just have to continue doing like that. So with all those many years, the survival was basically whatever you have, whatever you can find from the streets. I can tell you this, I remember very clearly I had a pair of clothes in my body for one whole year. And that's all I could ever have as my asset. This pair of clothes and this bag where I put my bottles and cans from place to place. And at night, you sleep under roof, under banana trees. That's one of the most difficult time because at night it's dark. At daytime, I could just continue my normal routine, pick up cans, exchange for food. That's how I survived. Yeah.
Do you remember some of the thoughts you had at the time?
I remember at least two thoughts I had. Number one, I hate my province. I hate it so much. And I blame myself and I blame my family why I have to live on the streets. It's such a terrible experience living in the families with so much violence. I had no choice. I was beaten almost every day and there's no way I could survive. So I stepped out of home and I hate my province. I hate my family. I hate it so much that I just want to disappear from those areas. But I know one thing that maybe, whatever I could, one day I could step out of this and make some little changes to the community where I belong to, which was that part of the countries. And then when I became, agile with all this blessing, with all this skill I need, I thought of reflecting like, wow, I didn't know how my journey would now land me into an opportunity where I work in international development, providing assistance and programs to support poorest country in Cambodia, in Myanmar, in Kenya, in Uganda, in the Philippines, supporting these kids, these boys to be able to go back to school and begin their journey. How amazing that would be. And now I didn't hate my province. I actually felt in love because I got an opportunity to do something that other kids don't have to suffer like me. Because every time I look at these kids, I say, no, if I can do better for them, let's do it. And that's why I never forget my friends who give me $1 for the classes and how those $1 have shaped my life since then.
That's amazing.
The same way how international development programs work. Our donations from different parts of the world, from the government, from our church members. These donations go that far. Can you imagine that? Some would say like $1 is nothing, but those $1 that I receive from my friends, it's meant a lot for me.
It changed your life.
Yeah.
So how did you go from $1 English classes to advanced studies to this very specialized niche in the development sector of gender specialist advisor?
I remember this very clearly. I had a very terrible family experience. My mom is very strong woman. She has other 6 kids. She works from very morning 4 o'clock until 8 p.m. Every day. And with very brief time, I lived with her. And then when I came back in 2000, I saw those struggles. I saw those moments that she wanted to be somebody that the community recognized as the women. Somebody who has 0 education can achieve greater for her family. Not for herself, but for her families. And with those experiences, I saw I began to explore interest in women issues. Because in that time, in early 2000s, the concept of development looking at the issue of gender equality was very limited. So I began to look at issues of women. So women's studies was the main topic. But slowly through development, we understand that the issues of gender inequality, it isn't women issue. It isn't men issues. It's the issues of everyone and every societies. And then I began to look into areas of gender and development. Through those exploration of different study options, I got a scholarship to go to Thailand to take my 2-year postgrad studies. When I finished those studies, I came back home and dedicated my last 10 years just working with communities, with women's and men's groups and local leaders to be able to transform some of the positive norms, but break down barriers that women experience in order to achieve their aspirations, whether women's economic empowerment or whether education. And with all of those, with so much commitment that ADRA Canada places in working with marginalized communities, in advancing women's prosperity, economic empowerment, gender equality, it is perfectly matched with what I've been doing and what I'm passionate about. And when I work with ADRA, we're working in Myanmar, we're working in Sudan, in Kenya, Cambodia, the Philippines. One of these places have the most difficult environments for women and girls to grow up. But there are some great allies. There are many men, there are many local leaders that we can work together to shift the status. And we've been doing that, and I think there are going to be some great results coming up in the next 2 years or 3.
So would you say that this work to empower women and girls to reach their full potential, clearly it's benefiting them directly, but are there benefits to the rest of their family members? Are there benefits to their community when that happens?
Absolutely. Research shows that women invest probably 3 or 8 times more of their income to the families, to their kids, to their societies. And we've seen this in society where women have economic ability or empowerment and have the chances to reach their potentials. Economies grow, society grows. The study shows that if women are able to maximize their potential in the labor market, the economy of that country increase significantly. And that what it means to us as development worker, as ADRA, working with women's groups, empowering them to be able to reach their potentials. We can see the benefit definitely go far beyond that individual level.
Yeah, to the whole country.
It is. Yeah. Let me give you examples in Cambodia where we've seen different programs where women are able to access to economic livelihoods. We've seen great incomes come in, right? So through working with men and through working with women, they are able to maximize those incomes and benefit the families. I give you another example in Uganda or in Kenya, right? Where I work with the male and female champions, and we give them training skills they need. And imagine without our work to be able to support them, they would not have the opportunities to access to resources and life skill training that they would be able to use for their own livelihoods, for their own career. And by working with them, by supporting the trainings, by bringing the skill that they need, definitely they are slowly will be able to get up and get some good skills needed to build their families and build their society. And imagine these small community, but with multiple villages, multiple community, with multiple countries. Together, how would that work and support the global prosperities? I can't imagine our development that only benefits the rich. Our development goes very, very far that you would find very remote poor household family members engaging in our work. And I'm sure in the next 2 or 3 years when you go in to see that, you will see a big smile in their kids, big smile in their families, because our interventions touch their lives and improve their status. We consulted with the communities, we work with them as partners, we discuss problems together, we identify solutions together, and from those solutions we put together a joint actions that communities and ADRA can read and can agree on. And from those it gives a foundations that the work we do, even though we did ADRA, but isn't ADRA alone. It's locally established by our own community members. And that gives us a very solid fundamental evidence about why we're doing what we're doing. Because these are the development challenges that our communities are asking and are needing for. And as a development professional and as an agency, it would be very effective to work with partners like that, identify joint problems and address solutions together. And remember, this development successfully, effectively can be achieved through working in local partnerships with women's groups, with the men's groups, with the local leaders. That's good development practice. If we cut that off, it would be very, very hard to achieve sustainable goals.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like it's building in sustainability so that even when the project is done, they have the know-how, the capacity, and the confidence to continue onwards with their goals and their dreams and aspirations.
Yes. Ultimately, these are the goals and priorities that established and owned by the local communities. You know, of course, ADRA not going to go anywhere soon, but the fact that the communities have ownerships, the fact that the women say, this is what I want, this training skill that what I need to build my family, and I think I'm going to do everything I can to invest my time to make it happen. That means a lot to them.
Yes.
That means a lot because we can see that's going to go.
Yeah. So I love that this has that local ownership.
Yeah.
And because they are priorities to those people, concerns that they have, and the goals that they have as well. So what I'm hearing is that ADRA is very locally connected. It's really has its finger on the pulse of the local communities with which it works, but yet it's also a global network.
Absolutely, yeah.
And is in alignment with global priorities. Can you speak more about that? I don't want to say dual nature, but
Sure.
how it's both of those things. Yeah.
So I think this is very important because what's happening in developing countries will have effects in developing world. And the same way what's happening in developed world will have effects in developing nations.
Right.
I'll give you an example why ADRA remains one of the global leader in international development. Right? We position ourselves in a way that aligns so closely with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Give an example, goal number 4, goal number 5, where we invest our programs in achieving quality of education for our younger children. Goal number 5, where we work with men and women to improve equality and status of women in different countries around the world. These investments definitely part of the global priorities. What ADRA is doing is actually positioning ourselves not just in alignment with these priorities, but in supporting the global community to achieving a promise that no one is left behind in our development journey. Second point, what I think is very important, and it's very good to talk about this because we are in Canada. And our programs very much so supporting the priorities of the feminist international assistance policies that the Canadian government put forward several years ago. Gender equality and women's empowerment is one of the core priorities, and how we could address extreme poverty and how we could address global prosperities. And the way that ADRA does, especially the job I'm doing right now with 2 projects I'm supporting, our investment really zoom in to address one of the root causes of inequality in gender issues, in women's empowerment, in working through local leaders, in making sure that those obstacles and those power dynamics are being removed so that people can now step into the light and be able to address and support their own journey towards prosperity. And that is amazing. You look at it, it's more part of the puzzle, but globally we are all connected. Yeah.
So ADRA's commitment to empowering women and gender equality more broadly is not only in alignment with our national and international policies and goals. To me, it sounds like ensuring that our work at the local level is not causing harm.
Absolutely.
Ensuring that the initiatives that we take, the decisions that we make are not perpetuating existing injustices. Do I have that right? Is this kind of like a safeguard against that?
Absolutely. You know, one of the principles that ADRA hold into is do no harm. So in our development priorities, we have to be able to analyze the risk and what are the mitigation factors that we can do to support any or to remove any harms that might be resulting from our interventions. And that is not just a good practice as an agency, but really a moral obligations as an agency, as an individual, that whatever we do, that will not lead to further harms, right? And that's why we give a lot of emphasis in engaging with women's groups, in engaging with men's groups, in engaging with local leaders to be able to identify common grounds, common objectives, and possibly identify some of the potential effects or impacts out of those interventions, and together work with them to address specific intervention examples, right?
Yes.
If in places where we know that to engage women, we have to seek permission or we have to work with men so that their husbands, their fathers can let their girl, their daughter, their wife to join our program in skill trainings. Imagine if we go there right away, we mobilize women without consulting with the local leaders, without consulting with the males. It's going to be very challenging. It can put these women at risk.
Yeah.
It can put our staff at risk. So the approach we like to do is to understand the power dynamics in each community we go, sit down with the local leaders, discuss with those who have powers, and engage with them in a way that at one point in time they grant us access to other development challenges that we might be able to work out. And I've seen, based on my experiences, when we do that thoroughly, we are able to see not just numbers of women who are coming to attend our programs, but good participation. They feel confident. They feel happy because they don't have the fears that when they go back home, somebody's going to attack them. That they have this ability to articulate the ideas, because imagine if they have no fears in mind, they are able to express themselves much better. And that's where one can learn better in absorbing knowledge and skills. And that's the good thing. So, you know, we are there to do good. Let's do everything we can to even improve our environment and their environment, and together achieve a joint result.
Listening to you talk, I get the feeling that gender issues are quite different in other countries than they are here in Canada. Obviously, in Canada, we don't have it 100% awesome. There are disparities and gaps here as well. But for example, this morning, my son has a fever and he can't go to daycare. And normally, I would need to stay home. But my husband knows that it's important for me to do this work.
Amazing.
So he is home today until I can get there, and then we swap off. You know, so we're sharing that childcare responsibility. I think that that is not the case in many of the countries where we are working. This kind of shared understanding that we are both equal, we both have value, both have things to do, things we want to do, things we want to achieve, and support each other in that. Could you share with us some of the challenges faced by women and girls in the countries where we are working, in the countries that you are overseeing? How is it different for them there than what we have here in Canada?
One of the challenges that women faced in many country that we work with is the issues of unpaid labor, the issues that working at home, cooking, cleaning, washing, that's the women's job. That's the only job they do. Many societies don't even consider it as a job. It's a women's obligation, right? So Cambodia, for example, Kenya, for example, Uganda, for example, right? And that brought me back to the previous topic when I talked about if women were able to maximize their potential, step out of that quote-unquote women obligation, they can achieve so much for their society and for their nations. Our interventions need to be closer to home. So you would have to consult with women and say, what is the best time for you? They may say, well, 1 o'clock we finish our meal, we have some time, so we can talk about skill trainings, program development, livelihood development, microfinance, for example. So we would approach our intervention on that particular time of the day, you know. And this is going back to the fact that addressing gender issues cannot be done only with women. We need to be able to engage with their husbands. So in our interventions, we not only consult with women's groups about time of the day, we also consult with men. You know, what would be an appropriate way of engaging with women's groups, with their wives, for example. And by that conversation, we are able to slowly address or joint development issues or the challenge that they face in a time, in a day that they feel confident.
And it isn't about leaving the home behind, like leave the kids to fend for themselves. It's about, as I understand it, building teamwork within the family, building an environment where all can feel supported on their journey to achieve their potential that's going to come back and benefit the family as a whole. And then you take it from the family to the community at large, to the society at large, to the country at large. It's, yeah.
And slowly it changes the perspective when women are able to gain skills, get better access to resources that they need. Men begin to say, wow, I didn't know about that. I didn't realize that. I said, yes, you know, it's wonderful that now we're not just only viewing women as a beneficiaries or women as women doing their own private job, but as an active agents of change, that they can make change in their own lives, in their own communities. And that will change because result shows women are now representing in many corporate worlds, in international development programs, in head of states. Things will change. And this change will trickle down, will generate even longer lasting change and impacts to the rest of the world.
And positive change.
Yes.
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 So you mentioned women's roles, you know, in these countries and what it is exactly that they're up against being women, their role and what they're allowed to try to do with their lives. But what about perceptions of their value? Are there differences there as well?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought this up. I bring you an example of Cambodia. You have this value that says men are gold, women are white cloth. When white cloth drop in the mud, it gets there forever. But when gold drop in the mud, we pick it up, we cleanse, the value is still there. That kind of value and that concepts really puts women so low in our society. And some even not even encouraged to go and advance their career because as the white cloth, you will drop any point in time, you're there. And when you have that mentality, what happens, you have this equal relationship because women as the white cloth, men as the gold. There's no way that white cloth can be equivalent to the gold. And I'm saying that I don't mean to accept that. I hate this equal, I hate these unequal relationships. And I'm hoping that we begin to change that value and that mentality, begin to look at our women as an equal partner, as an equal human being that have great values that can support one another. And that is why the issues of gender equality is so important because we touch on the power and the value systems that perpetuate inequalities, and that such systems should be changed. And many women want to change that based on my experience. And no women want to be called white cloth, right? They want to be called Heather, they want to be called Soapeep, they want to be called equal partner. And I think with that momentum, if we approach our programs and our intervention appropriately, we can at least support that kind of concept that women want to achieve for themselves. And that will give them another level of commitment to even go further, to building their skills, to recognizing themselves as a human being, to value themselves. And when someone values themselves, they can do so much for themselves and for the society. Yeah.
I was just thinking too how the way we value something or someone plays directly into how we treat them.
Absolutely, yeah.
this is a mug.
Yeah.
If I break it, oh, I broke it.
Yeah.
You're a human being.
Yeah.
If I do something to break you, that's not just, oh, I broke him.
Yeah.
And if there is such a strong difference in perceptions of value, then I don't want to think about how women are treated in places like who hold these perspectives. It must be very brutal.
Yeah, it's very brutal. And one of the good things that ADRA is doing is we're working with students, with teachers, and we are revising some of the curriculums. And definitely some of the norms, the negative norms, will be thrown out of the textbook. And of
They're
course,
in textbooks
there's some textbooks
that say that perpetuate these
Yes,
kinds of values and
yes.
perspectives. Wow.
But the good thing is that we have some reform-minded partners in different government agencies who want to make sure that the textbooks are being adopted with positive messaging. And that our colleagues and our partners are doing with teachers, looking at some of the terminologies that have these bad connotations and use them with other appropriate and more empowering terminology, so that we don't look at women as different value. We look at our students and our peers and our colleagues as an equal partner. And I'm so blessed because I was in that room when they look at all these curriculums. They go word by word, sentence by sentences. I am sure when that get out, I will get you a copy. It's going to be so great.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd love that. Yeah. We can share it through our channels as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Soapeep, thank you so much for coming and for sharing. This is really insightful and exciting to learn that ADRA is a part of this. I'm really grateful that ADRA's work is addressing these issues because, like you said, it really sounds like it's part of the core of what drives problems, but can also be part of the core of what drives lasting change. And I hope we can have you back on the podcast, hopefully in the studio next time you're in Canada, or maybe Frank can meet you in the field somewhere. We'd love to have you back. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Heather. It's been a pleasure for me too. Thank you. God bless you.
If you'd like to learn more about ADRA Canada's work, you can visit our website at adra.ca. And for more podcasts like this one, I invite you to visit adra.ca/podcasts.